Lore Reloaded, brought to you by your host, Lore Reloaded. I hope all of you guys are doing well. If you're watching this video on demand, you know how this works. Usually I'll give it a couple of seconds, say hi to all the lovely people coming in, and then we will just get into it. While we are waiting, though, you can check me out at twitter.com/Lore Reloaded, and I will start playing games pretty quickly, so you can go to twitch.tv/Lore Reloaded. I'm not going to be announcing it on this channel, though, so you got to be a part of the Twitch army, as it were. Also, hey, this week I'm not going to be having a lot of videos going up because I got surgery on Thursday, which will put me out Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I will come back for the 15,000 subscriber celebration for the week then, so definitely be here for that. Now start time to say hello to a few people. We got up in here, we got Charles Holmes. What's going on? Dr. Charisma. Soma Brood in the house. Alien Hall, Nexus. We also got Aaron Random Chicken. Woot Pete, as always, a pleasure for you to be here, good sir. Most people are saying yes. Yes, it does suck. So let's just go ahead and break it down, see where we're going. Now, for those who haven't done a lore in the past, this is for people who usually can't catch my nightly stuff that I do on Wednesdays and Saturdays and Sundays at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. So let's go ahead and break it down. There will be spoilers, so if you're watching this, it is possible I will be spoiling Discovery for everybody. North Norman lore, what's up, man? Did you see the Enterprise? WTF with the window. Yes, I actually did see that. That is one of the most frustrating things. People were saying, yeah, this is going to be canon. This is in the Prime timeline. That is an absolute lie. Even the Enterprise does not look like it's in the Prime timeline. So unless they're going to go to the Star Trek Enterprise, where they're supposed to start out with this ship that doesn't look anything like Star Trek, which I think it did, but start out with a ship and slowly it would modify so it more looks like a Constitution class, then yeah, it doesn't make any sense. They're still using all, and I said all, of the technologies on the Enterprise that they're using on the Shenzhou, that they're using on the Discovery. It's not Prime timeline, it's JJ-verse. I'm not sure why people lie. Just don't lie. I mean, I think it would be better for me if we admitted that it was a reboot. But of course we didn't. So let's just break into it. So does Discovery suck? I think that the answer to that is yes and no. And ultimately it depends on where you're at and what you believe and the height of nostalgia you have for the show itself. So for those who grew up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s and have nostalgia for the old Trek, who like the old Trek, you're not going to have a good time. It's kind of like coming on here and expecting me to be anything other than myself and to either absolutely hate it or absolutely love it. New people who aren't really that big into the old Trek, and again, hashtag not all, but most people who weren't into the original Trek or first coming into Trek, especially those who are in their, I don't know, their teens and their 20s, are really probably going to enjoy it. Just because Trek is now reflective of the society. Here's an interesting thing. Something I want to give props to Discovery, and I've said this before, but Discovery did keep with the mantra of Trek, which was to go outside the box and to try new things. And let's look at that. Past Trek has taken a look at homosexuality. It has taken a look at interracial relationships. It's taken a look at transgenderism. It's taken a look at religion. It took the unpopular stance of bashing religion when religion was still very popular. It is also pretty critical of conservative economic policies. And so I think that when you consider those are outside the box. Now look at what Discovery started with. Discovery moved away from ensemble, and it didn't look at the captain, it looked at another officer or another person. It hosted a female black woman, and it was Game of Thrones serialized. These are all outside of the box for Trek. I don't think they're outside of the box for the generation we're in, but they are outside of the box for Trek, so they're trying something new at least. I don't think it worked, and I think they need to move away from it, but they are at least trying new things. And taking a look at what you guys are saying, why are people still defending this, says the Kraken? There are some good things. Nexus, hey, remember the Black Badges or the Mako-like troops and the third episode? I don't, because they never existed. What? The episode totally did not make a big deal about it. So here's my thing, and I was saying this before. Star Trek Discovery is serialized. It's really Game of Thrones. You can't start in the middle. You have to go back to the beginning, and you have to watch it from beginning to end. And it's designed like that. So they could have set that seed in Season 1 to bring it right to Season 2. And it may come back and actually be impacted in Season 2. That would be very serialized. Again, I keep doing Game of Thrones because it's just so consistent with Game of Thrones methodology. Game of Thrones does that. Crimson Studios, do you think they forced diversity? I think that they didn't force diversity. I think they gave their version of diversity. Diversity in the minds of a lot of people means that it is everything but white. Or you take whatever the white is and you make it bad or negative. And I think Discovery did that. I think diversity to some people means basically not diversity. I don't think it was forced, though. I think that it's just consistent with what we see in our generation. Hello, I'm the new guy, says Lad or Lade. Welcome, Lade. Always good to have a new person. It may turn more episodic in Season 2. I think I'd have to agree, and I forget who said this. Maybe it was Anti-Trekker. I think it needs to go ensemble, and I think it needs to go episodic. If you want the nostalgia. Now, I'll say this. I don't know the numbers because CBS is being very weird about that. They're saying it's successful. I don't know that I buy that, but they are saying that it's successful. And if it's successful, then they need to continue what they're doing. But if it's not, then I think they do need to go back to the old way, the old guard. They need to go back to ensemble. They need to go back to episodic. But, again, and it wasn't Anti-Trekker that said this, but it was somebody else. Basically, those of us who are in our late 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s are going to die a lot sooner than those who are in their teens and in their early 20s. And they want to catch them when they're in their teens and their early 20s. And I do see how this can appeal to people who are in those demographics. I do think they're shooting themselves in the feet, though, because when you look at Generation Z or whatever's past early 20s, they're a lot more conservative than the generation they're going for right now. So I think long-term they're shooting themselves in the foot. But for right now, assuming the numbers are what they say they are, and I'm not convinced they are, they're doing the right thing. Hey, Laura. Hey, folks. My theory about the war being ended by the power of Michael was kind of right, I think. I agree. Michael ended the war. So I don't understand if they didn't have a lot of time or if it was the rewrites. This show did nothing but tell, not show. If you look at episodes that a lot of people on this channel and a lot of people overall like, it's when they show, not tell. What's going on, AJ Zulu? AJ Zulu, a Patreon who supports the channel. I'm doing a lot of upgrades to the computer, and you'll see the studio behind me, and it's because of AJ Zulu, and people like him. Of course, people viewing it help out as well. But so if you look at, man, I lost my train of thought. So if you look at Discovery and what episodes people like, especially on this episode, the closer you get to the mid-season finale, the break, was done really well. But a lot of those are ensemble, and a lot of those are technically episodic. And so I guess it just comes down to if CBS is ever going to be honest with us and just put the numbers out there. Alien Hall loves my videos. Hey, I love you loving my videos, buddy. How did the Admiral not get court-martialed for planning genocide? Asked Scott Abbey. So here's the thing. It wasn't just the Admiral. Spoilers. They at the end of Discovery, Season 1, they make the plan that they're going to attack and try to disable Kronos. But instead, the Terran Emperor talks them into genociding the entire planet. By the way, these are pretty similar ideas. Nuking a planet from orbit and nuking it from the inside, there is a difference. There's not a lot of difference, especially if they can get away. I mean, the planet is usable if you're nuking it from orbit, but still. But anyway, the entire Admiralty, the way that it came off, Starfleet Command co-signed this. Starfleet themselves co-signed this. So it wasn't just the Admiral. In fact, she's a Vice Admiral when you look at her pins, which is kind of cool. She wasn't there was actually Admirals above her and stuff. And I like that when I say kind of cool, it's cool the way the pins are done. Not necessarily it's cool that she's Vice Admiral. I don't care what her rank is. But it is interesting the way they did the badges, which I like. So, you have all of Starfleet just signing off on this. I don't necessarily hate that. By the way, that's not Starfleet. That's not Federation. This is the reimagined Starfleet and Federation. Starfleet is not what people think it is. Starfleet is a dream, an ideal. And Starfleet will be pacifistic even if it gets people killed. They will believe in a higher policy and a higher, a more evolved way of looking. You see it during the Klingon, you see it during the Federation, you see it, you see it during the Cardassian Border Wars, you see it during the Federation Klingon War, you see it in the Dominion Cold War. You do not see it here. I do think that Starfleet made the pragmatic decision that destroying Kronos would win the war for them. I don't think they made the very Starfleet decision. If this was any other organization, any other military, any other government, I would actually be defending the idea to blow up Kronos. I think that there is an argument for that. But Starfleet and the Federation, I don't think, would do that. I think they would rather see themselves destroyed. Of course, you could make the argument with Section 31 in the Dominion War that once you're pushed that far, they're willing to do it. So, I don't know. Alan Hall, Lore Reloaded, please bring this point up. Where was the Starfleet, the actual fleet? Yeah, Trek Yards brought this up. So I didn't look at it the same way Trek Yards did, but I think Trek Yards made sense. It was always my understanding that Discovery would do the recon first, come back, and then they would launch the attack. That they wouldn't be just sitting there like you see the Klingon fleet. Now, in retrospect, that doesn't make a lot of sense. So probably it does make sense that the fleet would be there as well. Of course, in theory, since they used the Spore Drive, Discovery got there first, and then they did Into the Planet, and the fleet would show up on the way. So that, I think, could make sense. Johnny Doe, I disagree with you. Starfleet in the 90s show did give in terms of morals when it became necessary, and the Pale Moonlight is the classic example, along with creating a virus to kill the founders. I actually did recant towards the end of my conversation where I said, yeah, you have Section 31, but let's look at before Section 31. The Dominion Cold War, I think, is the epitome of Starfleet pacifism, nearly getting them killed, and showing the Starfleet Gene Roddenberry moral high ground. Starfleet kept giving and giving and giving, and sat back and watched when their own citizenry were killed, still suing for peace the entire time. Let's not forget, whether you like the Maquis or not, they were Federation citizens. They may have recanted it, but they were Federation citizens. And Federation still pushed for a negotiated peace. It was only when they saw that they would be completely annihilated that they finally went to war. And arguably, I don't even think Starfleet necessarily were the ones to go to war. If you force someone's hand, then did they really do it? If you put a gun to my head and make me drink orange juice, is it really my choice to drink the orange juice? Technically it is, but really it's not. Danny Holacher, I'm interested in what the ex-Emperor does now that she's free to go out into the galaxy. Do you have any theories on what becomes of her? That was completely horrifically done. The fact that they just let her go and she was like, okay, whatever, I'll leave. They are going to use her. She's going to be a recurring character for sure. Probably not what we saw before. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if she was just a villain of the week ever so often. Little better than Harry Mudd. Just maybe a more... I would say possibly a more dangerous Harry Mudd. Adam Okonski, greetings from Poland. Greetings from the United States. That's why I'm here, buddy, for you. For you. So, another thing I don't like about the war is that the war and how it happened makes it so unrealistic what we see in the Next Generation. Really, what we see in the Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. So, let's discuss that. The alliance that you see with the Klingons in the Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, all because one ship defended a losing battle, doesn't make a lot of sense when you consider that the Klingons almost completely, 100%, without reserve, annihilated the Federation. And then the Federation turns around and almost uses a weapon of mass destruction on the Klingons. In the original series, the Federation seems like it's on an equal standing with the Klingons. I just watched a video today by Anti-Tracker. He released it today talking about that. And yet, that's not true. If we believe Discovery, the Federation was in no shape to fight the Klingons. The Klingons, at every step, could have defeated the Federation and Starfleet. So why Starfleet would even chance going to war with them makes no sense to me in the original series, especially given what's been going on. And then the Federation, Starfleet will sit back and they will say, they will use a weapon of mass destruction, which is the most dishonorable thing that I could think of for you doing, blowing up a planet. And the Klingons, they're apparently okay with this come the Next Generation, come Deep Space Nine. But, so, that's one thing I think. Discovery, really, it's based on when you were born and what's your first interaction. If your first interaction was the original series, for sure, the Next Generation or Deep Space Nine or Voyager and Enterprise, then it's probably not the Discovery that you see now. Additionally, it has so many technicalities to it that it's frustrating to me. Like, for instance, in Deep Space Nine, Martok says, even my people, something akin to this, even my people did not attempt an attack on Earth. Technically, that's accurate. But when you look at it, it doesn't really hold muster. And they do that a lot. They didn't care about the canon, and that's unfortunate. Alan Hall, Mid-Range. So Star Trek Discovery is the pulp. Star Trek is the juice. If we wanted an orange, generic sci-fi, we'd buy an oranged, not juice with pulp. It's one way of looking at it, sure. I was so hoping to see Federation ships of the era, and they changed us out. No ships defending Earth, no huge fleet like we saw on Deep Space Nine. There were actually ships defending Earth. One thing I'll say, when we look at the battles, when we look at the fights, when it's ensemble, when they actually focus on the war, they do really, really well. That's what I don't like about this. First off, if it wasn't Star Trek, it'd be fine. But what I don't like about this is they do some things very, very well. The fights, you do see ships defending Earth. You see, I want to say Federation ships. You also see some Andorian and Vulcan ships there, I think. Very quickly passed by. So they do that very well. And when they fight, it's very well. When you feel like you're in the war, you're in the Klingon Federation war, when you're watching it, it's done very well. Mr. Pete 8680, bringing up another technically. In the original series, they don't know that the Klingons ever had cloaks. They've never experienced that, and it was a surprise when the Romulans had cloaking technology. Technically, the Klingons don't have cloaks here. They have invisibility screens. Whoa! So Spock, when Spock's sitting there talking to him, he doesn't mention, hey, that works just like the invisibility screens on the war we almost lost. But technically, it wasn't a cloaking device, or it wasn't considered a cloaking device, so he didn't have to say that. It just means that Spock's an idiot. To be fair, Spock isn't his sister, his stepsister, that he never mentions. So, maybe that's why it is. Andrew Neiman, in South Africa, we don't even have the CBS service like you guys. We need to wait for a week later release on the channels or wait for the new episodes on Netflix. Well, that sucks for South Africa. I agree. I can't believe that I'm going to defend Star Trek Discovery here, but it was only L'Rell from the Klingon perspective that knew it was the Federation that was going to nuke Kronos, from what we can gather. It was L'Rell. It was the Emperor, who, by the way, has absolutely no reason not to tell the Klingons to continue war between the Federation and the Klingons. It was Ash. It was every person, the bridge crew of Discovery. It was the entirety of the Admiralty and whoever the Admiralty confines in. That's a lot of people. That is a lot of people, and at least one of them, possibly two of them, that have no reason not to say this to other people, to do it. And let's talk about that for a second. So, I would say that it is an extremely dishonorable act to hold an entire planet captive so that you can take control of it. I am very surprised all 24 houses were okay with that. That does not seem honorable, in my opinion. And Scott Abbey coming back and saying this after I talked. That being said, how the other houses could accept her as leader for her using dishonorable tactics to seize power. I agree with you right there. And again, I love character arcs. The character arcs, I really like what they did with Tilly. I know a lot of people disagree with me there. A lot of people disagree with me. But I like what they did with Tilly. I feel like that arc came around. I liked Stamets. I liked how they brought Culver into it at the end. I really enjoyed that part. They did. I think it was done horribly, and I think it was tell, not show. I don't think it was earned, but they did do the hero's journey for Michael. She did come full circle from where she started and where she ended. Lorca I liked until the end, Mirror Universe episodes, and I like Saru. Saru was really well done. A lot of the character building was done very well. It was just the overarching story and the fact that it was not a focus on the war, which the war was very, very interesting. Nexus, it's okay, Lore. The war was won by Spock's stepsister, who was never mentioned with her magic power to the Federation, regained all its ground, and had the JJ movie ending. But JJ did it better. That's saying something. Admiral Murphy, let's talk about how half of Discovery officer that got awards never were even named. Great character. Yeah, Anti-Trekker talks about this too. There are characters that are always there that never get expansion. Ever. I could show you pictures of characters you couldn't tell me their names. And if you could tell me their names, you could tell me nothing about it. They were props. They were they were glorified props that would smile when Michael did something. Or they'd back Michael. What is going on, Mac Lee? Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about how remain Klingon is a horrible thing. To want purity, to want the ability to keep your culture, to not want to be a part of a different group, to want to just be yourself and keep your own morals and your own principles when you're a Klingon is bad. When you're different, when you're alien, when you're something that doesn't want multiculturalism, that's bad. That's the first thing, one of the first things we saw when we saw the Klingons. Let's go to the last episode. As long as you're a part of the multicultural group, the in-group, as long as your group has the people you want it to have, as long as your group has multicultural diversity, the way you define multicultural diversity, it's okay to say, I am Starfleet. It's okay to stand up and say, I am Starfleet. Remain Starfleet. Don't give up Starfleet principles. That's okay. That's okay. Because you're being diverse, because you're letting other people that you approved of, only other approved species and generations and people with your policies. Remember, they didn't want Terrans to be a part of. One of the biggest things was we couldn't have a Terran be the captain. There's more to it, of course, but they didn't want certain groups to be a part of them. It's okay. We're supposed to be proud that Michael wanted to remain Starfleet. But we should hate the Klingons for wanting to remain Klingon. Tai High 1 says, oh, is this a live stream? Darn. Sorry that's a live stream. Problem is that is when you're being wiped out, that counts for very little, says Paul River. Yeah, and I put this on my Twitter. As soon as I saw that, I was like, remaining Starfleet or saying I'm Starfleet is all well and good. Doesn't do a lot if you're dead. It doesn't help you out if you're completely and utterly decimated. You may still be Starfleet, but the difference between a dead Starfleet officer and a live non-Starfleet officer is that the alive non-Starfleet officer is alive. Michael Sue, Cornwall told L'Rell we weren't against remain Klingon. I don't necessarily think that's true. I do think that they were attempting to encroach. You can see that in the first episode. In the first episode, the Federation was continuing to encroach upon Klingon territory. They never went into Klingon territory, but they were attempting to approach Klingon territory. And they would come to the Klingons, and they would, want to talk to the Klingons, have conversations with the Klingons, and the Klingons would say, no, leave us alone, and they wouldn't stop. So to say that they were fine with it is a lie. While I can understand the point of having morals and being a role model, you can only do so alive and not enslaved, says Paul Raver. I'm not against the conversation of should you keep your morals. Is Section 31 right? Should you blow up a planet to stop a war? I think those are great conversations. I think those are great conversations for Starfleet, for Star Trek. I think those are just good morals that we need to do. I do agree with that. And I think that's an awesome way to look into it. But you can't sit there and make the people who say remain Klingon look bad, look horrible, look like Trump supporters, and then have the heroes do the exact same damn thing. Yeah, by the way, while guys are watching, just so you know, I'll probably have a video up either today or tomorrow. I will be doing the Wednesday night hangout that I always do, the Geek Breakdown. Thursday, I'm having an operation. I will be out Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If you like the channel, what I'm going to ask you to do is every day go back to a video of mine that you did enjoy and rewatch it for me just once. That really helps out the channel. And of course, next week we're going to be doing giveaways. If you're on the channel, you can get a Galaxy class model from Eagle Moss. I'll be sending it out to one person who is on the channel. Patrons, for as low as $1 a month, will be entered to get a Sovereign class ship. Lore Reloaded, Starfleet HQ in Paris, the birthplace of communism during the French Revolution. Am I alone seeing this pattern? I guess, maybe. I don't know. Remain original trilogy. We got Pete just yelling remain everything. If Michael Burnham said this during the Dominion War, for sure the Federation would have lose just so she can remain Starfleet. The Dominion War is a lot more interesting to me because it felt like the Federation had something they were really losing. The tension, because the show was very, very much show, not tell, or was tell, not show, it was hard for the tension to be there. The battle of Deep Space Nine, the second battle of Deep Space Nine, which was Operation Angel, I believe, or Operation Return, was an intense episode because you felt like there was something to lose. It never really felt like there was something to lose here. And when the characters had these moral issues, it didn't really feel like they were really moral issues. I don't know the Federation of Discovery, so why am I concerned about what happens with it? Did anyone else notice the original series uniforms that people in the crowd were wearing during the Michael speech at Starfleet? I didn't. I'm going to go back and take a look at it because that's interesting. That's pretty cool. I did notice the medals that the Admiral had. I mean, what can you really expect out of a Star Trek series called... It's horrible. All right, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, guys. Or let me tell you this. This is what I want everyone to do. Everyone in my chat, unironically, not ironically, I want you to say something you liked about Star Trek Discovery. I do think there are some very interesting things you could say about Discovery. I think there are good things about Discovery. What do you guys think was good about Discovery? I thought Starfleet HQ was in Colorado. Sad face. It is not. It is in California, San Francisco. Anthony Duke's the ending. That would be, ironically, good sir. Nathan says the uniforms. The uniforms were very cool. And the uniforms, what I liked about the uniforms is they were organic. The uniforms from Enterprise to Discovery were very organic, very, very well done. I would have to see how they change from Discovery to the original series, but I did like that. The Mirror Universe in general. Mirror Universe, I agree, with the exception of Lorca going crazy and going bigot, was very, very well done. A lot of people like the Enterprise NCC 1701. And I was seeing a lot of channels saying, I was given hope. I was really excited because I saw the Enterprise. But when I saw the Enterprise, I was very, very disappointed. The Enterprise is obvious pandering. The asset to me looked cheap. And this is not the Enterprise from the original series. The Enterprise you looked at, the Enterprise you're watching right now, is absolutely, positively, 100% not the original series. You can tell by looking at the model, they are still using those view screens, or not view screens, but the windows. It's on the new one. This was supposed to be in the Prime universe. To my knowledge, there was never a window for the bridge. Never. There was on JJ-verse. So if it's JJ-verse, that makes sense. Not in the Prime timeline. And again, that you have your battleship with a mirror. For an enemy to defeat you, all they have to do is find a light source that you can't dim down, and they've won the damn battle. #hate for Windows. It doesn't make tactical sense for what is obviously a military in space. There is a good reason why you would have a view screen and not a window. And the reason is, it's really easy. It's even in Discovery. Discovery explains what it is. The sarcophagus ship. The sarcophagus ship projected a light that they could not dim down. That's all you have to do to win. That's it. The windows are metal aluminum. That doesn't change anything. I don't care if they're made of unobtainium. The fact that you can do a light that will bypass it means that you lose. You lose when you go up against an enemy. And they can't even turn it off. They have no way to shut the window down. If they did, they would have done it in Discovery. But they didn't. And when I say windows, I'm obviously talking about the aluminum. I'm assuming that they're using the aluminum. It's just everybody knows what a window is, right? I'm not saying it's made out of glass. Well, if the captain... Well, the Cage Enterprise is canon, but I could overlook that if they told the Star Trek Discovery version of the Enterprise was the first iteration, and the original series Kirk version, its first refit. That still makes no sense to me. So they decided just to put... That doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I guess they technically could. They're like, hey, Windows are a really stupid idea. Why don't you bring it back in? We're going to put metal plating over it and install a view screen. Even though all the systems are designed around this window. The original series under Pike had 2 colors, blue and yellow. The original series under Kirk had 3, red, blue, and yellow. Where did the red come from? That's a good point. Windows would make no sense on a bridge, though. Would be a structural weakness. Windows would make sense on a promenade. Yeah, so... In theory, you could make the argument that the windows, since they're transparent aluminum or whatever the hell it is, that it's as sturdy or as defensible as any of the other metals. So I don't get too upset about that. I just don't think it makes a lot of sense. Now, if the original Enterprise, or not, I can't say it's the original Enterprise, if the Enterprise of Discovery had been the actual Enterprise, then I could see them doing earlier ships with windows. See, it makes sense to me that Starfleet would test things out. Maybe during Enterprise they used, because they still had a view screen. Enterprise are like, all right, there's some issues because the view screen could go out, yada yada yada. So the next series of ships, they make them all with windows. And they're like, wow, this is really awesome. This is pretty cool. Look at all the things we can do, all the things we can add. This is a huge advantage, especially when we're doing surveys and doing discoveries. And then they go to war with the Klingons, and then they find out, wow, this is very stupid. Let's go back to doing view screens. Or they could mix and match. I could see that. I could see the Constitution or whatever class of Enterprise not having them. Other ships do, depending on what their use is. Talks to mouse. Hello, computer. Yeah, that was funny when Scotty did that. Not to mention the ships are not staying still in battle and you have shields. Windows wouldn't matter. Yeah, I mean, that's true. One thing I do like about Discovery, you see, people think that it's all hate, 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 hate. There's just so much to hate, but there are good things about Discovery. One thing I don't like about Deep Space Nine is no matter what ship is fighting, it's fighting like a fighter and it's zipping around. Doesn't matter what it is. That's not generally how things fight, especially if they're bigger. They're usually designed to fight at a long range, a mid-range, and a short range. And it did feel like, depending on the ship, some were long range, some were mid-range, some were short range. It felt like they got that right. And I did enjoy that. I'm looking forward to doing battle breakdowns because I think the battle breakdowns are done really well, in my opinion. Weren't Federation ships designed for exploration and not for war before the Dominion War? Generally, yeah. Well, no. So the original series, they built ships kind of at a 50-50 or a 60-40 towards military, towards war. They had wars with the Klingons, and they also had the Klingon Cold War. So they were building when an all-out assault. Everybody thought there was going to be a huge, massive Klingon war. So they were building ships that were meant for fighting, but also had a 40 to 50% range for science. They were always waiting for the war that never happened. Then the Klingons lost the Cold War because Praxis, I think was the name of the moon, exploded, and they couldn't continue to support their economy. Now, one thing I do like is Starfleet does what Starfleet does. Starfleet will do peace almost at its own peril. And as soon as they saw that the Klingons could not support themselves, they offered peace and they scrapped most of their advanced military war fleet. This is all in the movie. In The Next Generation, while I don't like the way they look at it, Praxis was an inside job. In the Next Generation, they were extremely pacifistic, and I think that came off of the winning of the Klingon Cold War. I don't want us to get too far into it, but it's similar to United States superiority after the World War II. After World War II, the United States felt like it was untouchable. I feel like the Federation or Starfleet was the same way. And because of that, they had issues at the Cardassian border wars because they weren't building ships they should have. And the Borg almost annihilated them. So it went from militaristic to non-militaristic back to being militaristic. The Intrepid class is a science vessel, but then they put tricobalts in the ship, then it became an interceptor. The Intrepid class had the most advanced shields of its time. It had the most advanced weapons of its time. It was the fastest ship of its time. It was able to use biogenetic gel, or whatever the hell it was called, so that it could process faster. But it was completely a scientific ship, as you do. Because all militaries outfit their science ships with the most advanced weaponry and make it faster than any other ship. I mean, that's just logical. I mean, that's Cult of Dusty logic right there. At Lore Reloaded, could you do a video about how Starfleet changed from the 23rd to 24th century? Please comment on this video after it goes live. I'll throw it in the hopper. Of course, if you are a Patreon, you can request it for the month and it'll get done a lot quicker, but I will put it in the hopper. It will get done eventually. Remember the time the Delta Flyer attacked a Borg cube? Yeah, and won? Or at least didn't lose? Oh, that was fantastic. The Borg were really neutered in Voyager, in my opinion. Well, look at Star Trek Online. In Star Trek Online, science ships are just warships that kill you with science, says Lady Wonder. That's true. I'll give you that, but it's an MMO. So there's not really a lot you could do with that, I don't necessarily blame them. The Starfleet of Star Trek Online is militaristic. But if you can make an MMO better that people would like that isn't combat, then hey, I'll be the first to send it in to my contacts at Perfect World. Maybe we can get you a job. Oberth was a true science. Yes! Yeah. It's funny that we have a lot of hate for the Oberth, and that really came organically. But looking at the Oberth from a realistic view, besides the fact that it should be destroyed, an Oberth is a science vessel, and I think they should do that. They should have vessels like the Oberth that were meant specifically for science, that were to go and do science things that couldn't really defend itself. Then you have your Galaxy-class ships, which were exploration ships, which were a lot better armed. And could somewhat defend yourself. And then you had your military fleet when you're looking for a fight. The Borg do this. The Borg have scout probes. They have scouts and they have probes that go and look at stuff. They have the cubes, which are just your general standard. And then when they're looking for a fight, they have a tactical cube. The Borg do this, and they're a huge walking computer. Would you do a vid about Anakin not going to the dark side? Again, when this goes live, put it there. I'll put it in the hopper. That one will probably be a lot later, though, because I usually focus on Star Trek, but I'd be happy to discuss that, because that would be an interesting lorecraft. The whole promise of Discovery Season 1 is that both the Federation and Klingons grew. L'Rell learned we were not the people she thought we were. What? L'Rell learned we were not the people she thought we were. Okay, let's see what L'Rell learned. Let's walk through L'Rell's life and see what L'Rell learned. L'Rell was on the ship where the Federation decided to strap a bomb to a dead body to defeat them. One of the most dishonorable things, hell, it is illegal in the real world to arm bodies, and when people are getting their dead, blow those up. That was the first lesson L'Rell learned from us. Let's go to the second lesson. When we capture somebody, we throw them in a 5x5 cell and let them rot and die. That is the second lesson L'Rell learned, that we let them sit there and rot and die and get bored and go insane. And then, when we need something from them and they won't help us, we beam in their lover, the person that they're in love with, and say, all right, if you're not going to fix him, we're going to sit here and let you watch him die. We're going to let, L'Rell, we're going to let you watch Ash die unless you make him Ash again. That would be lesson number 3. Lesson number 4 that L'Rell learns is that when we get an evil empire, the Terran Empire, and their emperor comes over, we will let that Terran Empire person beat the ever-living holy hell out of you for a good 4 to 5 minutes. 4 to 5 minutes just getting the living hell beat out of you. And she couldn't defend herself. If you remember, when it goes down, those stripes activate and disable her. She is beating, it is the same thing as if L'Rell was tied up and then we just let someone beat the holy living hell out of her. That would be lesson number 4 or 5. Then lesson number 5 or 6 is, hey, we're going to blow up your planet. We are going to use a weapon of mass destruction and kill every Klingon we can as quick as we can. Or, we'll give you the bomb, you can become Space Emperor or Space Chancellor of the Klingons, stop the war, and you can be in power. Lesson 7 or 8. She learned so much good from Starfleet. Thank God we gave her Starfleet policies. Nexus, you see, Lore, this is where you're wrong. L'Rell learned the power of Michael Mother Effin Burnham. I stand corrected. So, I'm just saying, L'Rell didn't learn jack from us, or learn jack from Starfleet in a positive light. At all. There was nothing positive about L'Rell's experiences. Anyway. Be thankful Meyer didn't put a window in Star Trek II. He never liked the view screen. I mean, if he did, it would at least make sense. I don't think it's a good tactical decision. But if it had some precedence, I wouldn't be upset about it. Alejandro Rios, I think, is insulting me. What's hurting my back? Alejandro Rios trying to mock me, saying that I should buy a bra. Also, apparently, I complain like a woman. Aren't you very progressive? Starfleet went dark side before Mary Sue saved them. That is true. They did. Mining term, the law. Yeah, I'm sorry to get on my rant, but it's just... So I just realized that Star Trek Discovery ignored the fact that females weren't allowed on Klingon High Council. Technically, women weren't supposed to be captains of ships either, technically. You had a woman in the original series that, yelled at Kirk saying, you don't have women captains. Now, she was insane. I'll grant that. But Kirk agreed with her in that. So, women not being on the High Council or women not being in charge and suddenly I don't have an issue with. It's just the time and age. In the 70s, 70s and TNG, that might be something that wasn't seen as much or wasn't in the culture. And the fact they changed that honestly doesn't bother me all that much. Von Miller, I was really hoping she'd be a Duras. That would be interesting if L'Rell had been a part of the Duras family. I would have liked that tie-in, in fact. And it would have made sense for her to be underhanded like she was. What do you think of Star Trek Continue's explanation for no female captains? I haven't seen it, Landy Wanderer, so if you'll tell me what the Continues explain no captains, I'd be interested. And we could discuss that. Still glad that Saru wasn't roasted like a lamb. Saru needs to be the captain. I would love for Saru to be the captain. Lore, what would happen if Spock was a Scottish Vulcan named Spocky? Would Kirk say, beam me up, Spocky? He probably would. He'd probably call him the Spockster, and they would go out and drink a lot. That's probably what would happen. Women are not allowed to captain a constitution. That makes no sense. All right, so we're going to make ships. Women can do all of them except for the Constitution, because that's where we draw the line. That doesn't make any sense to me. Pete, you asked me, should I ban them or what should I do? I put you as a moderator for a reason. You make the decision on it, and then I'll let you know if I disagree with it, but you're empowered to do so. I don't think the other guy was adding anything to it, so if you removed him, I'm not really worried about it. Have you found a site for the nanite bomb? Star Trek Online reference. I haven't found a site for the nanite bomb. Star Trek Continues had it that the Federation was ignoring women for positions as captains of constitutions because of pressure from the Tellarites because of their traditionalist views. There doesn't seem to be a basis for that, for the Tellarites to be that way. Yeah, I don't see any real necessity. And if you look at the Federation has hundreds of planets. Even during Continues, you would at least have a dozen to 50 to 100 planets. Just because one species doesn't like it, I don't know. Maybe, I guess. That's interesting, but there's no alpha canon really to support it. In the 60s, women weren't allowed to be captains in modern navies. That's what I'm saying, Admiral Saval. So the fact that in the 60s, you have it where they're like, well, women can't be captains. And in Discovery, women are captains. It's just reflective of the culture, and I tend to ignore that to a degree. And I know that's pick and troll. That's pick and trolling. I saw someone put troll. That's picking what I want to be upset about and not. And I get that. You know, here's an interesting thing, though. This really has some bad implications when you consider. So you had a woman who was in charge of the Shinzu. And then you had a female admiral who was making a lot of the calls. And all of a sudden, women in 10 years' time can't be captains. Von Miller, do you watch Paw Patrol? I, in fact, do, because I have a 4-year-old. 3-year-old about to be 4. At Lore Reloaded, any theories on how Star Trek Discovery will ensure that the spore drives aren't mentioned post-Discovery? The way they made it sound, it seems like they just threw it in a locker and forgot about it, like the Defiant. I was really disappointed. That was another show, not tell. Well, we're not going to use it until we can find a non-human way to do it, a non-way that uses humans. You tell me the Tal Shiar never figured that out. The Obsidian Order never figured any of this out. They need a definitive way of cutting it off. Can we have an Andorian captain? I am sick and tired of bloody Vulcans. Always with the Vulcans. We see Vulcans more than any other species. You can only ever see humans and Vulcans. Humans and Vulcans are cheap to make. That is why. I think it's retconned, and we will see female captains during the original series era now if the series goes long enough. Yeah, I agree. Maybe the whole show ends with women committing to so many atrocities that they finally ban them from serving in higher positions. That's just horrible, Ulf. I'm disappointed in you, sir. They will probably burn out access to the network. I wish they would do something like that. I don't think they will. I think the Spore network will always just be there with the Spore drive available. They just decide to throw it and lock it away. It's kind of like this whole Mirror Universe bull. So when they get back, they're like, all right, so we're going to make this high security. We're going to make this, and we're going to lock away that the Mirror Universe exists, and we're going to make it so no one could ever find it. That is stupid. Your captains would need to know about that. They should know about that. That would be important information. So I don't know. Yeah. Not making it top secret where even your captains don't know about it. How? That's ridiculous. If the captains knew about it, now you could keep it high security. Only captains are aware of this. Then that would be very interesting to me. That would be something that makes sense. You don't want everyone to know about it, but you would necessarily want specific people. Because if, for instance, the captain went to the Mirror Universe, that'd be interesting and need to know. Andre Neiman says, oh, geez, Andre, I don't know if you've been here for a while, just saw you. Andre, another supporter of Patreon. The only way this whole thing works is through viewers like you and my Patreon supporters. What's going on, Andre? Worse is the Terran mycelium orb thing. Anybody in any universe at any time could potentially develop another one. That's a great point. So you're just going to throw it away, pretend like it doesn't exist, and then you're going to have other empires, other realities that are going to build this and not be prepared for it. Nathan Norman says, Burnham got off so bloody lightly. She still started the war. How many people are dead because of her, and they hand her back her rank and shield like, screw it, you magicked us safe? That is a good point. There should be a lot of controversy around that. People should have an issue with it. I could see them sitting there saying, us giving her back her command, because it's popular. It would be a political thing. But a lot of people, especially those who lost loved ones during this war, the 20% of Federation space that was under Klingon control, saying, this is stupid. Why would we do this? This is a traitor. This is a person that got so many people killed. Are you kidding me? I'll never serve with her. I could see that. Andre, of course you miss most of the comments in the stream. There's like 20 comments every 3 minutes, so I apologize if that upsets you or frustrates you. I don't mean to be hostile with that, but if you're frustrated by it, I do apologize. There's not a lot I can do about that. I get so many. I'm wearing the wrong shirt for this. I need to be wearing a different shirt. According to the multiverse theory, it has already happened in infinite mini-universes. So we do know that Interact, they believe in hypertime, which means anything that could happen will happen. So, yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point. 031987. Maybe they should install curtains on the bridge during the red alert with a view screen, and then they just close the curtains. They need blast doors that close over it. And that would make a lot of sense. By the way, guys, I'm probably going to be ending it soon. Probably going to be ending it very shortly. Just so you know, I won't be having... I will probably have a video either today or tomorrow. More talking on this, giving a more structured opinion. And then I'm going to be doing the Geek Breakdown on Wednesday. Thursday is my operation. I'll be out of commission Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I may try to do a Patreon live stream while somewhat under it, because that might, amuse people. But don't forget, next week we're doing the 15,000 subscriber celebration. I'm looking forward to that. If you're a part of the channel and you're subscribed, you'll have a chance to win a Galaxy class from Eaglemoss. Patrons for $1 a month will have a chance to win the Sovereign class. So looking forward to that. No Acura classes, but I'll ask and see if I can get some more, and I'll send those out to you guys. D. Newton, good luck with the procedure. Thanks, man. I truly appreciate it. Honestly, do a video of the operation. No. I call it an operation, but it's not a major one. If I told you what it actually is, I would not be, you'd be like, oh, it's that. I don't like operations. I don't like going under sedatives. It's not really a huge thing. So as an example, Pete, I don't actually mind what Alejandro said as an example, Pete. Mr. Pete 8680. Don't die during your surgery. I don't think I'll die, Darren. I just don't like doing them. And I'm looking forward. Now, guys, I am going to ask to do a request. So if you're watching this, I'm going to ask that on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, go to one of my videos, one of my favorite videos you enjoyed watching, and just rewatch it. Yeah, I know, Mr. Pete 8680, but it wasn't that bad. It's just a colonoscopy. That's exactly what it is. You nailed it right. It's a colonoscopy. I am having a colonoscopy done. Yep. Definitively done. Even though I'm in my 30s. Alright, guys. I think on that case, maybe the Temporal Integrity Commission might have something to do with the spore drive being covered up. Maybe. Genocide is allowed by Starfleet because of the whole General Order 24. Okay. Alright, guys. I think we're going to go ahead and end it here. I do want to thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to rate comment, and subscribe. It is not a colonoscopy, Vaughn. I was being sarcastic. And I will see you guys on the next Lore Reloaded.